Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Morgan, and this is episode
61.
Can we get a whoop whoop? Whoop. Not only is this our Thanksgiving special, but we have a very special guest with us here today. Everybody, please welcome Logan Lewis from the Binge Boys podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
Hey,
Go
girls.
ahead
Thank you so much.
Let them hear your voice. Let them
Hey.
hear it.
We're here.
Logan, how long have we all known each other? And then tell us all about your podcast and what you do and what your passion is with podcasting.
Probably, I think we met right when you guys started. I
Right.
messaged you guys on Instagram, and I was like, we have a mutual friend, and Amanda.
Yes.
And she actually, I think, was like, hey, my friends are starting. You should, message them, and you guys should, link up or something. And here we are finally doing it.
Yes.
But I do the Binge Boys podcast. It's all about the hottest in TV and movies. We do 2 episodes a week. We do one on Tuesdays, and that just covers the hottest of what's going on today. The week that this episode comes out, this comes out on Thanksgiving,
yes,
right?
Thanksgiving Day.
We talked about the new Ghostbusters movie.
Ooh,
and
I'm tuning in.
the new Spider-Man trailer. So those are the 2 big ticket items from this week. But then on Thursdays, we do kind of what we're going to do today is talk about a movie from the past.
Like a throwback.
Like
Thursday.
a throwback.
Throwback
Exactly.
Thursdays.
Ooh, I've never even thought about it
Okay,
like that.
that's what it is
Throwback
now.
Thursday. There you go. So yeah, that's it. And I'm super excited and super happy. We got off the phone when you guys called me and asked me to do this. And I was shaking with excitement. So
Well, we are so glad that you were
Yes.
here. And actually, you guys, when we had first met Logan, or when he reached out to us, he was our guidance to the
our
podcast
guide,
world. He
literally.
knew, he helped us with so much. So we were so very grateful for him.
wow.
Yeah, if
you
we
did.
hadn't had Logan and Arletta in those beginning days, I don't know that we would be here right now.
We would still be producing content like episode 1. That's
Wow.
It was so rough up until
So
then.
thank you for being here.
Yes.
We are so excited. We're going to tell you guys a little bit about today's episode, and we'll get into our regular banter. We're going to be doing a crossover of Creeps and Crimes and the Binge Boys podcast, and we're going to be talking about one movie specifically that has a true crime, a paranormal, and then Logan's going to cover all the things about the
movie
movies.
deets. Yeah.
So, yeah, let's get into our regular banter. What are you drinking?
Okay, guys. So if you're watching on YouTube, and yes, I know we came on last week and we're like, hey, we're not going to be on YouTube for a bit, but this is one of the specials that will have video content as of right now, praying that everything goes correctly with all of this. But tune into our YouTube to see this. It's Creeps and Crimes podcast. We are all drinking mimosas because it is 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning. So, of course, we had to come out with some mimosas,
Yes.
everybody.
And Logan's fiance, Catherine, is here with us.
She's
If you
over here in the
wanna-
corner.
Want to yell a little hello, everybody?
Hello, Catherine.
Me, Catherine, and Taylor are drinking champagne with a little bit of
OJ.
orange juice, while Logan, on the other hand, is driving to Nashville after this, so he's got a little more OJ in that.
He's
Yeah.
taking it easy.
We're doing a little more OJ.
Yes. So funny. But I did want to hop on here and just really quickly, I know you guys listened to our ads about our lashes in Knoxville, and we spoke a little bit ago about a GoFundMe for our favorite lash artist, Lexi's sister, who was battling with COVID, but unfortunately, a few days ago, she lost her battle. We're going to link her GoFundMe page just to help pay for the medical bills and the GoFundMe for her funeral down in our show notes, just because Lexi does so much for us. She gives us awesome discounts for you to get lashes and falsies, whatever you guys want. So if you guys have anything to give, please go donate to her. If you're watching on our YouTube, it's going to be up here, a picture, and then it'll have the link that you can QR scan.
Yeah, so hold some lights and some positive energy Lexi's way. And Lexi,
Yep.
we are so very terribly sorry for your loss.
Yeah, we love you. Next, I am so excited about this podcast, though, guys. Just a little, what is this called?
Crossover?
No, not the crossover. I'm giving a disclaimer. I'm giving you a disclaimer. So we've all been like, okay, this is going to be the perfect crossover for this awesome crossing of these podcasts that brought each other up together. I feel like we all raised each other together in this little way, with Logan being our older brother yanking us ahead. And we I've been so excited about this. So when we were like, okay, Amityville, you've seen the logo. Sorry, you've seen the title.
Oh, yeah.
You know what it is.
I was trying to keep it a secret, but it's literally
in the title.
Yeah, okay.
So I haven't seen the Amityville horror movie since middle school. And in order to keep myself really plain, the only thing I looked up was the true crime aspect of it. So you two are going to be blowing my minds today. And I wanted to keep it that way, you know?
There's plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Plenty of subject matter there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So before we get started, it is our Thanksgiving special. So we are going to go around the table like we're at a Thanksgiving dinner, and we are going to say what we are thankful for.
You want me to
Logan,
go first?
you're first.
Okay, go.
Wow, I'm first. I, of course, am thankful for my wonderful and beautiful fiance, Catherine.
Just doing a hair flip over there.
Supports me and helps me and is probably the creative advisor to my podcasts because she comes up with all the good ideas.
She's actually the mastermind.
She actually runs Binge.
She's like fist pumping right now because internally because like she's like, I do all this consulting work and I get no recognition for it, and I'm giving you the recognition right now.
No, this is your moment. Actually, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a beautiful picture of her right above us, so you can just see her. All
Look
right,
how pretty.
it's right here. Absolutely
a
gorgeous.
beaut. I'm thankful for my parents, of course. Thankful for you guys for having me here, and for the same thing that Taylor said, that kind of just like helping each other grow and just make it work in the space. So I think that's it. And my friends and other family, my Mima, love you, Mima.
Oh, Mima.
Mima.
Big shouts to Mima.
We love a Mima.
We do love Mima.
We love a Mima.
I gotta send this to her. What about you, Morgan?
Oh, me. Okay. I have the most generic answer every year. I hate this question.
It's only been 1 year before this, but it's going to be the exact same. Refer back to our last Thanksgiving episode.
I am very thankful that I am surrounded by such great friends in my life that are always there for me. Miss Taylor Jane over there, she is my rock.
Are you drunk?
Am I drunk? That's
She's
the nicest
drunk.
thing I've ever said.
I know, you don't ever speak nice to me, and I'm going to cry.
I'm also thankful for my boyfriend. I love him.
Yeah,
He's
love you,
great.
man.
And my sweet, sweet doggy, who my boyfriend did gift to me. I love Ollie. He is also my rock. He
Ollie's
literally
number one.
saved my life. Not really. That's dramatic. But
saved my life.
and my family and my other friends. Thank you guys. And you too, Logan, for being here. I'll throw
Yes.
that back at you. All right. And you, Catherine, over there with your beautiful
She's just
smile.
grinning over in the corner and like
She's wedding planning in the corner.
Yes, and she's also waiting for me to be like, I need more champagne, please.
And Crepes and Crimes and all of our fans. I'm thankful for you guys too.
Yes. Okay. What I'm thankful for. I mean, guys, I'm not okay.
Are you about
today.
to cry?
I really am. Like,
Oh, here we go.
I've had a really tough last few weeks, and like the only thing that I feel like has like pulled me out of the bed in the morning is this podcast and like the people that we get to connect with and our listeners and our family. And I just love you guys so much. Thank you guys for like tuning into us and like easing with us whenever we're having a rough time. And when we're just like not okay sometimes and I can't fucking read, we know. Thanks, Marty Bass. But
We're thankful for you.
yeah, but you know, I'm just saying like it's been a rough ride these last few weeks, and having, you know, knowing that I get to speak with you guys every week like makes me so happy. And obviously I'm so thankful for my husband, Logan, and my family. They're just amazing. And I'm really thankful for this podcast family too. Like, it was a part of my life that I never knew I needed, but the second I had it, I don't think I can ever let go of it. And you guys are amazing, and I love you guys. So that's what I'm thankful for.
So before we start, you guys take a second and remember what you're thankful for.
And
this
wipe your fucking
Thanksgiving.
tears, all right? Like,
Are we ready?
I'm ready. Hit them with it, Morgan.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get creepy.
Okay, guys, surprise, surprise. I'm going first today.
Ooh.
So Morgan.
All right, Taylor, hit him with it.
She has to say that to me or else I won't do it.
She'll just stand there.
I'll be like, are you going to say it? Okay, guys. So today I'm going to start us off with the Amityville mass murder.
Oh, shit.
So my sources are fancypantshomes.com, Wikipedia, the New York Post, and Zillow. Of course.
Oh,
Duh.
Zillow.
You know I live on Zillow. Like,
Zillow.
it was a perfect source for me today. So the story of 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville, Long Island begins in 1924. John and Catherine Moynihan, ? Built their dream home. It was a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 3-story waterfront home with a boat slip, private pool, a boat and a pool house. Okay, hello.
Flexing on them.
A 2-car garage and a beautiful yard for a family to grow up in. It was perfect, especially when the DeFeo family moved in 1965. They were a well-off American-Italian family who decided to leave Brooklyn behind for this perfect family waterfront home. But all that changed on the evening of November 13th, 1974, at 6:30 p.m. Upon returning home from work, the oldest son of the family, 23-year-old Ronald Jr., was shocked when he was not greeted by the typical busy family home that he had always been welcomed home to after a long day. He called out for his mother and his father, but there was no response. He then calls out for his 4 siblings, but there was nothing. Ronald Jr. decided to walk down the hall to his parents' room. As he slowly opened the door, he sees it. Both of his parents, 43-year-old Ronald DeFeo Sr. and 43-year-old Louise DeFeo, lying face down in their beds, surrounded by a mattress soaked in blood. Ronald Jr. ran as fast as he could in the town. He entered Henry's bar and he's screaming, "You've got to help me. My mother and my father are shot." Ronald and a group of people returned back to the home to try and help him and see what's going on with the family, while others at the bar called the Suffolk
County.
Yes, Suffolk County. It looks like Suffolk, and you guys know I don't do well with those. Suffolk, right? Okay, we're back now. County Police Department. When the police arrived at the family home, they found Ronald Sr. and Louise had been shot twice each, and they were both declared dead upon arrival. But what the police found next would be a scene that altered this town and the world as we know it forever. As police walked around the family home and into each of the children's bedrooms, they found 18-year-old Dawn, 13-year-old Allison, 12-year-old Mark, and 9-year-old John Matthew, all dead, face down in their beds with one single shot to the back of their heads. The police officers rushed Ronald Jr. to the local police station for his protection, fearing that this was a mob hit, specifically a well-known mob hitman, Louis Fellini, ? Once police searched the crime scene and sent all 6 of the victims' bodies to the medical examiner's office, they began questioning Ronald Jr. about what he heard that night, what he saw, what made him think that this was the doing of the mob. But it's almost as if with every question they asked him, his story changed, little detail by detail. And police began to grow suspicious. Why would they kill everyone but you? Why would anyone want to go after your family? Police leave the interview room with Ronald Jr., and they have a sinking feeling in their stomach. Did he kill his entire family? In an attempt to bury these feelings about Ronald, they decided to track down Louis Fellini. Not Louise. Which is when they find out that Fellini was actually out of state, visiting family with a rock-solid alibi. There was no way that he could have done this, and he was able to confirm that there was not a hit out on the family by the mob, which I'm like, how's that conversation going?
Right, exactly.
Like, obviously I'm a hitman. I'm obviously not guilty of this one.
But, like, also there's not a hit on the family.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Let me
It's
check
not
my
us.
book real fast. Like, like what?
It's not us.
Yeah, so they go back into the room with Ronald now, and they're like, hey, there's no way he could have done this, and there's not a hit out on your family, so what happened? And very shortly after this little conversation, almost like instantaneously, they got the truth. And the truth started with one statement. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. It went so fast. Ronald Jr. had shot his mother, father, and 4 siblings with a .35 caliber lever-action Marlin 336C rifle at 3 a.m. earlier that day. He took a bath, got dressed, threw out the clothes that he wore during the murders, got rid of the murder weapon and the cartridges, got a bite to eat, and went to work as if nothing ever happened.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. So Ronald Jr. was arrested and then charged with the murder of his family. On October 14th, 1975, his trial began. Immediately, Ronald Jr.'s defense lawyer, William Weber, came out of the gates with an affirmative defense of insanity because Ronald believed that it was self-defense. Even though his entire family was obviously asleep at the time of their murders. But that's not what Ronald believed or told everyone. In fact, he said he heard them, their voices, plotting against them to kill Ronald Jr. The psychiatrist for the prosecution, Dr. Harold Zolan, came back saying, "Yes, I'm sure that's exactly what you thought you heard because, Ronald, you are well known for your drug use in Amityville. But not just any drugs. I'm talking heroin and LSD, y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Like, literally, you're hearing voices,
Right.
you know?
Hallucinating on LSD.
But on top of all of this, he had recently been diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. And because of his confession and this diagnosis, it's clear that he was well aware of his actions at the time of the murder. So despite the fact that he might have been on drugs, because of his antisocial personality disorder, that's what led to his drug use. And it was so, I don't know how else to explain this in like a medical term. So basically it was like a way for him to feel normal. Question mark, maybe, who knows? I keep saying that. I don't know why that's my slogan today. Last time it was apparently, now it's question mark.
Question mark?
It's
Who
fine.
knows?
I'll put that in the show notes. Cute little joke. But he had this personality disorder, and what we know now is that is a telltale sign for a serial killer or a murderer just in general. So they believe that he was very well aware of the actions at his time of the murder when he did it. However, the psychiatrist for the defense, Dr. Daniel Schwartz, fully supported the insanity plea after many sessions with Ronald Jr., mainly because of the simplicity of the shots and some of the evidence that was found in the autopsies and after processing the crime scene. Despite all of this, the trial judge, Thomas Stark, remarked that Ronald Jr.'s crimes were the, quote, most heinous murders committed in the county since its founding. And on November 21st, 1975, Ronald Jr. was found guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder.
God.
And sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. I don't know that I agree with that. I guess since it was a second-degree charge and not a first-degree charge, so I'm saying that it wasn't planned out before. But I don't know that I agree with the 25 years to life. I think it would be like 100 years to life.
Right. Like
if it's 6 people.
You killed 6 people.
And 4 of them were minors. So.
Right. And they never accepted the insanity plea, did they?
No.
I don't understand the whole, like, why don't they just, this just is just a naive question. Why don't they just say, like, you're serving life in prison?
Right.
Why do they say you're serving 100 years in life? It's like, I'm 60
years.
already.
Yes,
I'm not going to live 100 years.
So technically with the 25 years to life, it means that he's eligible for parole after 25 years if good behavior is available. But he killed 6 people.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not getting that parole.
He doesn't need to be out on the streets.
We don't even need to like have that paperwork in our office. Like don't waste your time, you know?
Yeah.
So anyways, on March 12th, 2021, all right, guys, recently, Ronald Jr. died at the age of 69 in the Albany Medical Center in New York.
Wow.
Yes, but at the time, like his entire like imprisonment, he was at Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York. And he appealed and requested for parole multiple times, and they were all denied. Again, we don't even need the paperwork.
Yeah.
Sidetracked here. I actually got a Twitter DM or maybe a text from Logan that same day saying, so did he do it or was he possessed? Do you remember that? You sent me like a Twitter report on this guy. And
I did?
You're like, what do you think? Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
In March?
In March?
Yeah, when he died.
Oh wow!
That's
I don't
crazy.
even remember
Because
that.
we were deciding the topic, I was like, oh, he's asked me about Amityville before, like about
Yeah.
if they were
Oh,
possessed.
that's right.
Or,
I did do that.
yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Little full circle right here. So this case, if we were just looking at it from, a typical true crime podcast, like me pitching you guys a case, it's pretty cut and dry. He did it. He murdered his family, whatever. But there is so much controversy that surrounds this case, especially because of the years that came behind it, all right? Specifically about how the bodies were found and the fact that despite the murder weapon was an extremely loud gun, not a single neighbor heard anything. So I went on and read as much as I could from the Wikipedia sources that they gave. Again, with my Wikipedia, if you need my full source list, just go to the Wikipedia source list. I went on there and I was reading, and basically Ronald Jr. said that he drugged the family, and that's why they didn't move at the time that they were shot, and they were all face down. But I don't know too many people that sleep face down, or if you're okay, let me put it in this point. When I'm super drunk, all right, this is the closest I can get to being poisoned. When I'm super drunk, what do you do when you're in your bed? You lay on your back with your mouth open, and you breathe and you pray to God, and you swear to God you're never going to drink again.
That's
right?
actually what you're not supposed to do. when you're
Exactly.
drunk.
You're supposed to lay on your side. But I'm looking at the ceiling fan the entire time God, I swear to God, I'll never drink another sip of alcohol
Please
again.
let me recover.
If you just let me breathe through this, you have full body chills. You're not okay. You're this is definitely alcohol poisoning. It's not a good situation.
Yeah, so how every single person in the house was sleeping on their belly.
Yeah, why were they face down? I'm not even talking on their belly to the side. I'm talking face down in the pillows.
Yeah.
So Ronald Jr. was like, no, I absolutely drugged them. Well, when the toxicology reports came back, there were not a single drop hint of any sort of drugging in their system. So then, were they all in a trance? Mm-hmm. Was there a trance that they were all in that made them in the exact same position that allowed him to shoot them all one shot dead, face down in their beds with no defensive wounds, no one fighting back, no one tampering with the crime scene after the fact that they were shot? And why did no one hear this gun go off?
Yeah.
There was not even a muffler on it.
Him.
That's the question of the day right there.
There has to be a force field around this house, right? So the real question to the true crime portion of this is, did the voices make him do it? Were they in his head, or were they in the house? The family that bought the house after this crime may have a story or two to tell of their own. So Morgan, what do you think?
Oh, what do I think? This brings me into my segment, you guys. Before I start, I'm going to go ahead and list my sources. So we'll take a little break and build that tension up. My sources today are allthat'sinteresting.com, thenewyorkpost.com, abcnews.com, biography.com, hitsy.com, therap.com, and the official Ed and Lorraine Warren channel on YouTube. So the Amityville home that sits at 112 Ocean Avenue on a canal off the Long Island Sound wasn't assumed to be haunted at first. As a matter of fact, this quaint little house being consumed by the paranormal wasn't even in question. Even with the insanity pleas from Robert DeFeo Jr. after he shot and killed all 6 of his family members, people and officials still weren't convinced. He was simply dubbed off as a psycho. It wasn't until a little over a year after the crime, in December of 1975, that local townspeople began questioning that, maybe Robert DeFeo Jr. was telling the truth. Maybe he wasn't just some lunatic that was capable of murdering his family. Maybe there was more to it. And maybe this house has something seriously sinister going on inside of it. But what brought these questions and this nature of doubt to the table? And that answer is the Lutz family. The Lutz family moved into the house in December of 1975. It consisted of husband and wife, George and Kathy Lutz, as well as Kathy's 3 children from a previous marriage, Daniel, Christopher, and Missy. The Lutz family purchased the home for only $80,000 after being on the market for an entire year. At this time, George and Kathy thought they were getting a steal until they realized what home it was that they were buying. You know, the one with the gruesome murders and the alleged spirits attached to it. But they saw this as an opportunity to grow their family in such a great area and live the life that they have always wanted. So without second thought, they purchased the 4,000 square foot home for a mere $80K. George Lutz stated in an interview with ABC, "It was a dream come true." I feel like nightmare is the proper word to use there, George, but by all means, dream, I guess. Yeah, go ahead and throw that word out there. With the now known history, they thought it would be a good idea to get the house blessed on the very first day that they moved in. So the local priest came, Father Ray Picoro, probably butchering that.
Sorry, Marley.
And he started his blessings around the house. George also claimed in the same interview with ABC that while in the sewing room, the priest felt a hand slap him, followed by a deep voice saying, "Get out."
Oh.
And then Father Picoro, became ill with flu-like symptoms and his hands began to bleed. Shortly after, the couple began to notice odd things around the house. And I think odd, again, is a light word to use here. I think a more fitting word is evil things happening around the house. For example, the doors were being ripped off of its hinges, the cabinets were slamming shut, and a green slime-like material was oozing from the ceiling.
Oh my God, it's demonic.
There were cold spots all over the house, as if the entire house was just one giant cold spot. And now we do have to remember that this was in the month of December, and it was in the state of New York. But the house was heated by a wood burner, and a wood burner keeps a house very, very, very toasty. If we know anything by the fireplace behind us, my back is burning.
Yeah, if you guys are hearing anything, it's a fireplace behind us. It's really aesthetically pleasing on the YouTube.
Yeah, it's not aesthetically pleasing on my ass. And the Lutz family stated that they kept the fire burning day and night in an attempt to feel just the slightest bit of warmth. In the same interview, George said, "There were odors in the house that came and went. There were sounds. The front door would slam shut in the middle of the night. I couldn't get warm for days."
Oh, God.
As each day the Lutz family resided on 112 Ocean Avenue, the activity progressively got worse. Almost every night, George mysteriously would wake up at 3:15 in the morning, which is the same time that's believed to be when the DeFeo family murders took place. He would hear his stepchildren's beds slamming up and down on the floor, but as hard as he tried to get out of his bed to check on them, he would find himself immobilized, aka stuck in sleep paralysis. Which brings us back to the question of how did the family, was the family
Were they in a trance? Yeah.
So George said he was in a trance almost every time he heard something creepily going on.
Right.
He said at random times throughout the day and the night, he would see his wife physically transform into an old woman.
Oh, God.
The face, the hair, the wrinkles of a 90-year-old woman.
Divorce.
The family would see and hear a nearby garage door opening and closing, but nobody ever pulling in or out. And at one point, sitting around the table for dinner, they all watched as a knife was knocked down by what was assumed to be a spirit. And the creepiest thing of all, George and his stepson Daniel were outside one day. And they were walking towards the house when they saw a pig-faced like creature with red eyes staring them down from a window.
Burn down the house.
George said he told Daniel to wait outside, and as he searched the entire house, there was nothing.
I'm sure there wasn't.
Actually, scratch that, because that wasn't the creepiest thing of all. The events that took place on their 28th night in the house was their hint to get the fuck out of there.
Run.
George had awoken at 3:15 a.m. yet again. He looked over to the other side of his bed where his wife Kathy usually lays sound asleep, but this time she wasn't. George laid and watched as Kathy was levitating and moving across their bed.
I have chills.
After a panic and getting his wife down, they decided it was time. They needed to leave, and they needed to right then and there. Sprinting to the children's room, Kathy grabbed her daughter Missy, but when George entered Daniel and Christopher's room, he claims that they too were levitating. Early that morning, after only 28 days, the Lutz family fled the house, leaving their clothes in their closets, the food in their refrigerator, and their furniture still inside the home. George Lutz stated that if the family had not left, he believes something horrible would have happened.
Yeah.
And he tries not to think about the what-ifs.
Sheesh.
When word got out that the Lutzes abandoned the home after not even a month, your average paranormal gurus began to contact them. Mm-hmm. And 2 months later, a group of psychic researchers assembled together to validate the Lutz family's claims, including your favorites, Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Yeah.
Lorraine and Ed, prior to the investigation, had not heard of the DeFeo murders in the Amityville house because they were out of the country at that time. When they were called in, they were explained the murders that took place and how a family fled after only 28 days. And of course, they were interested. When they got there, George Lutz was supposed to meet them to let them in the house. But when they got to the house, George wasn't there. So he called them, and George said, "The closest I will come to that house is 4 blocks away. I'll give you the keys at a pizza parlor nearby." So Ed and Lorraine headed his way. They took the keys and headed back to the house. And I'm going to be reading a transcript from the YouTube video titled Amityville Horror. It is on the official Ed and Lorraine Warren channel, and it is Ed talking about his first experience into the house.
Oh, my God.
It's very crazy. It's very dark and very intense. Ed says, "I'm not a clairvoyant. I'm not sensitive. But when I opened up that door and walked in that house, it reeked of death. The first place I always go is into the cellar. It's my custom to go into the lowest part of the house. These are usually the darkest areas. This is where evil thrives. This is where it survives. It hates God's light. It hates sunlight. It hates any kind of light." So while Lorraine headed upstairs, I went down, and as a religious demonologist, I took out a crucifix and I held it up, and I commanded, in the name of Jesus Christ, whatever was there to reveal itself. It wasted no time. I had never had such a quick reaction. I felt as though I was underneath a waterfall. That's how terrific the pressure was on my head and my shoulders.
Oh.
It was forcing me down to the floor. Then I felt what I can only describe
Sorry.
as hundreds of pinpoints of electricity hitting my body. And then it was as if somebody had taken a hot towel and dropped it over my face. I couldn't breathe. I knew what was happening immediately because I felt it before, but not to that extent. I immediately went into what we call religious resistance, and I commanded, in the name of Jesus Christ, to leave and go back to where it came from. And it immediately lifted off, and I've never headed up the stairs so quickly. That shit right there was dark.
That is dark.
That is dark.
And now Lorraine, and remember, neither of them had ever been in that home before. She said, the room that you see at the very front of the house, as soon as she walked in, she stood and could see all of the bodies all lined up, and that it was very visually clear to her that that's where the DeFeos were prior to be taken out to the morgue. So before she even entered the home, the main entranceway, she said she could see all 6 bodies lying there on whatever the morgue.
Stop, because I saw the picture of that today.
Yeah.
So look at my arms, verify that they are absolutely goosebumped. RN.
Chills.
Not okay.
And
my God.
And that the image that she had was absolutely horribly disturbing. She said as she walked up the first set of stairs to the first landing near the great big window, it felt as if she was standing right under rushing water, a pressure on your body so intense. She said this happens because the atmosphere will solidify in homes like this. It's like literally like trying to cut through a cement wall.
I'm not okay.
She continued up the stairs and made a left because that's where she was drawn to. And this room was the sewing room, a.k.a. the room that the priest got slapped in the face. She was drawn there.
Bitch slapped.
And Lorraine looked at one of the camera guys and said that this room is the closest to hell we will ever get.
Oh, not funny anymore.
How chilling.
That is awful.
Both Ed and Lorraine agreed that it was a home that they would never return to and that it had an overwhelming feeling of horrible depression.
They're like, sorry, guys.
Right.
GTG.
So how is the Lutz family now? After a couple of months, a heavy evil weight had been lifted off of their shoulders. After sharing their story to books and movie producers, George and Kathy were actually asked to take a polygraph test.
Oh.
They passed. They were hit with large legal and financial issues, probably because they had $80,000 that they couldn't afford in a house that would never sell. And because of this, skeptics rose, claiming that their stories were one giant hoax just to make money. And to add to that fire, after a fallout over money issues, the family's lawyer came out in 1979 claiming that the 3 of them had came up with the horror story over a bottle of wine and that George was known to play around in the occult and inviting spirits into his life.
Why?
But then you also have to think that if it was just one giant hoax to make money, why would you flee your own home, abandon it, knowing that you will be broke with $100,000 down the drain. It's just really quite an elaborate hoax if it is one, which I don't think it is. Because after George Lutz experiences, he reached out to the DeFeo's attorney, stating in his ABC interview that, quote, "We realized there was something so wrong there that it would be inhumane, it would be improper to just let Robert rot in jail and not try to get him some kind of psychological help." So if it was one giant hoax, does this hoax include helping a murderer?
Right.
Like, I don't think so. I think what they experienced was real, and to back that up, so does their son Daniel. Daniel claims that the house ruined his life and that he continues to have nightmares to this day. Daniel actually appeared on the 2012 documentary My Amityville Horror, and he was very adamant that the hauntings did in fact happen, as well as Christopher, who claimed that the book is not a hoax, but was extremely amplified like books do. He was also known to clash with George, and he actually moved away from the family at 16. The daughter, Missy, she tends to stay away from the horror spotlight. Kathy and George got divorced 5 years after their experience at the Amityville house in 1980, and both have since passed away. Kathy from emphysema in 2004, and George from heart disease in 2006. The Amityville house sold in 2017 for $605,000, and the address has since been changed, and it has been entirely renovated. Quite the story of the Lutz family. It definitely sounds like something that would be turned into a movie. Right, Logan?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I'm really glad that you said that because Amityville in general has been made into dozens of movies.
I noticed that too when I was actually looking for the movie to watch it.
Yeah,
there was like 20 different things that popped up.
There's a ton of movies here. There's 15 listed here at least that have been created off of this entire case.
It's insane.
But I watched two movies. I watched the Amityville Horror that came out in 1979, and I watched
the original, right?
The original, yeah.
OG.
And then I watched the Amityville Horror that came out in 2005.
That's the one I watched.
And then I watched the little sliver of footage that they gave us in The Conjuring 2 when Ed and Lorraine Warren visited the Amityville house. But there's nothing really...
I forgot that they did that.
I totally forgot about that.
It was at the very, very beginning of the movie. And it doesn't even deserve to be touched on, really, because they kind of used Amityville as, like, a way to introduce that nun character. And as of none of the stories that we've heard about Amityville, we've never heard mention of a nun.
Right, yeah.
So I think they just kind of used Amityville as being, like, the most demonic case ever, or whatever, to introduce... something like that villain
in that movie. A
little
Hollywood flair, if you will.
Exactly. And I think, honestly,
I
think Hollywood had a lot of fun with the Amityville case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
However, my sources for this are The Conjuring 2, the Amityville Horror from 1979 and 2005, and the Amityville Horror video from Ed and Lorraine Warren's YouTube channel from The Seekers of the Supernatural.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
So generally, I won't reiterate all the facts that you guys gave off, but kind of just going through the two movies. I know the main focus is the 2005 one just because it's newer, but there's huge differences in the whole vibe and tone of both of those movies.
Really?
Oh, I wish I would have watched it now.
I'll say this, and you should go back and watch the 79 version because the 1979 version of this case is far superior than the 2005 movie.
Very quick turnaround after these stories came out.
Yeah, 1979 when the murders took place in 74.
Yeah.
So,
and he went to trial in 75.
And they lived here in 75.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-year turnaround.
So they had only lived there for 10 years after the fact, 9 years from the time that the murders happened versus when they bought the house and moved in.
Yep.
My voice is gone, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
I was like,
it's almost so disrespectful that the movie making process with pre-production and post-production, this case probably went down in 74. They probably started scripting it in 76, 2 years later.
But what was so like traumatizing about this case that like made them want to?
I think it was the really first case of like possession and paranormal that hit national spotlight.
Yeah.
But what about when did the haunting in Connecticut happen? I can't remember the date. Because that's also another big one in the true crime / paranormal community that like took over, and it took them years to even bring that one into the spotlight. I guess because it's New York.
Was the 79 movie, was that more focused on the DeFeo family, or was it like the 2005 with simply the Lutz family?
It was just the Lutz family, although both movies started out the same, showing Ronnie killing the family.
Right.
And then it transitions into the Lutzes with their realtors. Pretty much both movies have that part down. But the 79 version of the movie really does a fantastic job at talking or really focusing on George. And George is the main character of that movie. And it really focuses on his relationship with Kathy. Whereas the 2005 version, you see George butting heads with the kids more.
Right, yeah,
And Kathy was very just sidelined in the 2005 movie.
And I feel like another main character in the 2005 movie was the daughter.
Yes.
She played a really big role in that entire
Whereas
movie.
in 79's version, the daughter had no role at all because...
Okay. And she didn't have a role in the real story either. So 2005
Exactly.
added that little in, huh?
So quickly, just to kind of brush over a little bit of the details of the movie, the budget for that movie, the 79 version, was $4.5 million.
That's a shit ton of money for then.
For 1979?
Holy shit.
Holy crap.
I don't know what they spent that money on.
Yeah.
Opening weekend, it made $7.8 million.
Wow.
So it almost doubled the budget. And its all-time run, it made $86.5
Wow.
million. In 1979, 1980, that is a boatload of money.
That is
a lot
like
of dollar bills.
an insane amount of money. Oh my God.
And so the Lutz family, that got back to them then? Like, was that given to them? Because like a lot of the cases
the money?
were like it was a giant hoax. Because
No, they sued
sold...
twice. The Lutz family sued Hollywood
Oh.
because of Hollywood promising. Well, I think Hollywood, especially for the 2005 version, George sued the production company because he was promised a certain amount of money and they didn't deliver.
Wow. But it wasn't in writing. It was like a verbal
It
agreement.
might have been a verbal thing.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, when you say promised, that's more verbal
Yeah.
to me than
Yeah.
contraction.
Contraction.
Contractions.
And it's important to note just the level of acting quality that portrayed Lutz. The people who played the priest and the rest of the family, they were all side characters. George is the main focus here.
Right.
George was played in 1979 by James Brolin, the father of Josh Brolin. If you know who Josh Brolin is, he's the guy who played Thanos in Avengers.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
So his dad played George, and then in 2005, Ryan Reynolds,
Oh,
who
baby.
plays Deadpool, and
Yes.
way many other roles.
And is married to Blake Lively.
Lively.
more importantly related to Blake Lively.
More importantly.
He plays George in that movie.
Which is
and
crazy. He's in a horror movie and the star of it, huh?
Yeah, I'll say this. The 2005 version of this movie might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of bad movies.
I don't know which one I've seen. I feel like I've seen the older one because I remember being like, huh? Why are we watching this, huh?
It was really good. I really enjoyed the older one. It scared me more than the 2005 version because the 2005 version focused a lot on like jump scares,
Yeah.
whereas like you watched the 2005 version,
Yeah.
the scene where the kid's like brushing his teeth,
Yeah.
and then
that
there's just
thing
like
with
this
blood crawling out of his mouth.
there's this just demon thing sitting there, and here's another fun fact too. I'm all over the place.
Go ahead.
But I have these notes here that I should stick to. Ryan Reynolds and the production company was heavily scrutinized for the way that they portrayed George in the 2005 version.
believe that.
Because in that version, he was portrayed to be like an animal, like abusive to
Yeah.
his family, like an asshole, just like this
Like the
huge
scene with the
douchebag.
axe.
Yeah, oh yeah, total fake.
Yeah.
And I have bullet points here from each movie, like what they did that didn't happen in real life.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna point those out.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
hear him.
So we'll start with 1979 because that one had the more differences than the 2005 version, but these differences are they're just weird. They're all just Hollywood shit. It's all Hollywood shit. It's like, for example, when the priest, both versions did this, when the priest got upstairs into that sewing room that they said
Yeah.
is like the most demonic room ever.
Right.
They said that the flies did not swarm and attack the priest in either version. The priest said that he saw a grouping of flies in the house, but they did not attack him like they did like in both movies.
Got
Both
it.
movies, they ran out of I think in the 79 version, they were just all crowded around the window, whereas in 2005, they were like in an air vent, and he
it.
like heard something and he gets up and looks at the air vent and then they
swarm.
just swarm him. That didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's funny you bring that. I'm sorry to cut you off,
No.
but actually in the Ed and Lorraine interview, they were talking about the flies.
Yeah.
And they were saying that it didn't happen like it did in the movie, but that it was just like a very large congregation of dead flies in that room.
See, that's what I always wonder about, because, you know, when we're talking about like Hollywood and we're seeing the flies and everything that we see in the demonic movies, that is a classic like symbol of like, no, there is a demonic spirit here. We see like flies surrounding humans, like going crazy. But I wonder what that actually looks like in real life. So whenever we hear these differences between what's going on the movies versus what's going on in the stories that we hear today, like, is it them just sitting by the windowsill, or are they coming out and attacking from a vent in the room?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of differences just like that. Like you mentioned that the priest reported his hands were bleeding or whatever. In the movies, they portrayed that they were like blistering and bubbling. That's not true. They were just bleeding, like you said.
Yeah.
It is true that the priest did hear somebody whisper him to get out. In the 79 version, it was far more violent sounding. It was more like a rush, like get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the 2005 version, it was just like
Get out. Yeah.
so it's weird that both movies did different things, but they did the same things in different ways. So in real life, fun fact for you, I hope this is right, but I picked this up on several sources, so I hope this is right. That the Lutz couple actually made a really big deal about the price of the house in the movies. In real life, that wasn't the case. They were upset about the fact that it was $80,000, but in the movies they made it they portrayed it as if they were like broke as hell and had zero money to their name.
Yeah.
It was just a little out of their price range.
Yeah.
But the movies portrayed it to seem like they had no money at all.
Yeah. And they were just like, oh, this. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I get it.
In the movie in 1979, they really highly revolve around her aunt, Kathy's aunt, being a nun, and they tried to counsel her a lot. And in real life, Kathy's aunt was a nun.
So I wonder if that's where The Conjuring 2 comes in.
Oh.
Because that's not in the 2005 movie at all.
No, not at all. That's a really good point.
Oh, maybe there's more to it.
Maybe there's a connection
really
there.
Publicized.
I'm going to have to look into that more. Yeah, took a quick break. No connection.
We looked it up. There's no connection. Anyway, we thought we had something going in there.
Yeah, thought we did, but maybe not. So that's okay. It seems like just Hollywood and Warner Brothers took advantage of the fact that they wanted to introduce the nun so that she can get her own spin-off movie so they could make more money.
Right.
So there's
It's
no
all
connection.
All about money in the end.
No connection with the nun and Amityville, except for the fact that Kathy's aunt was a nun, which might be a little Easter egg, but I don't know if it was intended that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Another couple things that did not happen in real life, and I think the 2005 version did this as well, but blood did not drip from the walls when that 28th night when shit was hitting the fan.
Right.
Blood was portrayed as like going down the steps, and when Kathy got the kids out of their rooms to run down the stairs, they're like, oh my God, there's blood on the stairs. That did not happen.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had mentioned, sorry to stop you again, I had mentioned there was green slime oozing
Ectoplasm.
from the ceiling or whatever it was. And I did read another area. They were like, well, that one was a little bit of an elaborate, like, exaggeration.
Got it.
Yeah,
it is also
exactly.
common in other paranormals, so go ahead.
Another thing that happened in the 79 version was that George fell into like a pit of like black ooze or something when he like fell through the floor. That didn't happen either. That's another just Hollywood. Same thing with the toilet I keep saying 2005. 79. Black ooze came from like the toilet water, and they were like, what's wrong with the plumbing? That didn't happen either. Just more Hollywood shit to make it seem scarier than it was. But I'm not discounting the Lutz. I'm sure their experience was horrifying.
Yeah.
The lawyer says differently.
Yeah. The lawyer says that.
Lawyer said it was bullshit.
Lawyer said it all happened over a bottle
But like
of wine.
really though, like how, I mean, is he just mad because there was a money disagreement, so he wants to go like discredit them in the end? Or
I think,
you know.
Maybe. So on to the 2005 version, the one that Morgan watched. Same thing. Ryan Reynolds played George Lutz. Chloe Grace Moretz, fun fact, before she was really famous, she played the youngest daughter.
I knew she was familiar. I had to look her up, and I was like, oh, shit, I know her.
And the biggest problem with this movie is that, first of all, Ronnie walks up into the family's rooms, kills them all, but the youngest daughter gets out of bed and runs to the closet to hide. That did not happen.
Yeah.
Everybody was found face down in their beds, bullet in the back, bullet in the head. But in this movie, within the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, it's already fucking wrong.
Yeah,
You're already
fucked
wrong.
It's already wrong.
You ruined the whole fucking evening.
They did. And
Amityville.
the whole relationship. One thing that was consistent was the daughter's relationship with somebody named Jody, which was the pig-like figure that she named. Jody.
Oh my God.
Because in the 2005 version, she wasn't portrayed as a pig.
No, it was portrayed as a little girl.
But in 79, there's a moment where George Lutz is outside and he looks up into the window, and in his daughter's room, there's just like this. It looks really cheesy. I'll have to pull up a picture of it. Just like this pig head with red eyes. And then, like, he goes like this, and then, of course, it's gone. And that's the only time you ever see the pig.
Yeah, because they portray Jody as a little girl with a gunshot wound.
Yep.
The girl that...
Yep.
The youngest.
Hold on. That scene also...
Allison.
You know exactly what scene I'm talking about? The babysitter.
With a finger.
Yeah. She, like... both movies did that as well. They both had it where the babysitter goes into the closet to investigate the spooky thing.
So, Taylor, the babysitter was the sitter for the DeFeo family.
I remember this.
They went out on date night.
Yeah, I remember this. Don't worry, y'all.
Yeah, she literal fingers her forehead, the bullet wound.
Yeah, exactly.
And gets just...
Carried out on a stretcher.
Yeah, she literally gets carried out on a stretcher, which I've tried to do research. I can't find any evidence
of a
babysitter or a babysitter's
No, because that's
haunting.
the one thing that stuck with me from middle school with the Amityville movies. Like, that is the one. I don't know which one I saw. I'm sure it was the old ass one.
And the babysitter was, like, trying to seduce the boy.
Yeah,
the whole time.
She's, like, 19, and this kid's, like, 12. and she's just, like...
laying on his bed, half naked.
Yeah, she's like... Have you ever French kissed before? And I was like, what the hell's going on
Why
here?
is that a question?
Have you ever French before? He's like French, and she's like with tongue kiss.
Gotta go.
And he's like,
I was like, this
she's
is
like,
rape.
I'll teach you if you give me your poster.
This is literally rape.
I was like, this is so rapey.
No,
yeah, it was super
not
rapey.
okay.
More
that is awful.
More number talk. The budget for the 2005 one was $19 million.
Wow.
As opposed to the $4.5 million from...
$19 million. Where do you
all,
even get that?
That's all for Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, that they paid 18 of that million to Ryan Reynolds.
And then opening weekend, it made the budget back with $23 million, and then all-time run made $107.5 million, which is a lot of money again for 2005. But Rotten Tomatoes wise, this movie got a 23% from critics and a 52% from audience, which is crazy because the 79 version has a 30 from critics and a 52 from the audience. So very similar scores, but...
They must be Amityville fans then.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you'd think they'd have a lower score because they are that, like, true crime, or that much of a fan. They would have been disappointed.
What's so crazy is just how, like, prominent the story is. So really, like, everybody, whenever you hear Amityville, like, it's such a trigger word for the majority of the people. I mean, probably not real true Gen Zers. I know that we're on the cusp, but, like, they probably have no fucking idea what we're talking about. But like, everybody else is like,
Amity who?
Amity who? Everybody else is like, everybody else is like, oh my God, I'm getting on this Amity hell yeah-ville. Like, let's go, you know?
I do have a little bit of trivia regarding this movie.
Go.
Yeah.
Are you interested?
Yeah, I'm interested.
We're so interested.
To prepare for being a asshole, Ryan Reynolds chose not to become close with his set family.
True.
He distanced himself from them. He wasn't mean to them. He was just distant, so that the children looked up to him, but he did not respect them in return while the camera was rolling.
That's so sad.
That's so him.
Yeah, that's so him, but so sad.
He did this so that he didn't latch on to the actors and actresses, so he would have no trouble easing into the verbal and physical abuse portions of the movie.
Wow.
Also, fun fact, forgot to mention this when I was talking about mistakes the movie made. Well, I guess I haven't gotten to that for the 79 or for the 2005 version, but Ryan Reynolds George Lutz did not kill the family dog.
Oh,
yeah, Shaggy.
That pissed me off.
He's still alive.
Did not kill that family dog.
Well, not to this day, but like
Poor
he
dog.
survived.
Before shooting the film, a body of a fisherman who had been murdered washed up on the bank of the river by the main house.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
Nuh-uh. That's
Yes.
real?
Yeah, that's real life. That happened. Like the day they showed up to shoot, a body washed up on the shore.
That's insanity.
That's an omen.
Whereas the 79 version, none of the cast or crew reported any weird occurrences, but both movies were not filmed in the original house.
Right.
Of course not. Because people probably would feel shit. This was the film debut of Chloe Grace Moretz, and she was only 8 years old, but she did all of her own stunts.
Hell yeah.
Wow,
Even
this
being on the roof
rooftop.
of the house.
She's a rock
Yeah, there's this
star.
whole exchange in the 2005 version where the youngest daughter, gets up on the roof of the house because Jody told her to. That didn't happen either.
She wanted to be closer to her dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, she was up. That's insane for an 8-year-old. That's impressive.
That is crazy.
So MGM, which was a film production company that got later bought out by Warner Brothers.
Right.
They claimed the remake was based on new information uncovered during research of the original events, but George Lutz claimed nobody spoke to him or his family about the project.
Wow.
When he heard about the project being underway, his attorney contacted the studio to find out what they had in planning stages to express Lutz's belief they didn't have the right to proceed without his input. 3 letters were sent and none of them were acknowledged by the film studio. In June of 2004, the studio filed a motion for declaratory relief in federal court, insisting they had every right to make this movie. Lutz countersued, citing violations of the original contract they had continued following the release of the first movie. The case remained unsolved when Lutz died in 2006.
Wow.
That's insane.
Before the role of the babysitter was given to the actress that played her, I don't have her name, the original person that was supposed to play that role was Megan Fox.
Shut
the fuck up.
That's fun.
I love that fun fact. That's the
couldn't
funnest fact I ever
I
heard.
couldn't imagine her in that movie.
Ooh, I didn't even catch this. But in the movie, all of the kids' names are not accurate to what their names were in real life to protect their identity.
I did notice
Oh.
that. I did. But
Is
then I
that-
just released all of their names on this podcast.
So sorry.
But George and Kathy's were. Those were their names.
Yes, George and
because
Cassidy
they're
was
not
correct.
minors,
Yeah.
right?
During filming, many cast and crew members woke up at 3:15 a.m. just like Ron DeFeo Jr.
That's
did.
got to be a little psychological,
That might be.
mental going on.
Yeah.
there.
Like the other night I was watching TikToks for too long.
Yes.
Logan wakes up at 5 a.m. to me singing, California girls, you're unforgettable.
Oh my
He said,
God.
go back to sleep. And I laid back down and went to bed.
That's crazy.
That's in my head.
That is terrifying.
Just like, what's his face? All the cast members.
This movie was not screened to critics, which is usually a quick sign that the movie is trash.
Really?
Yep. If a movie does not get pre-screens, that usually means that the studio is not confident in it.
Why?
Wow.
How could you even put something out? Like, you just spent $19 million and you're like, oh, it's trash actually. But there goes 20 mil down the drain.
Yep. So that's trivia for the most part. Though the story is largely fictional, contrary to George Lutz's claims, the factual elements of the story remain present in the films. Ronnie DeFeo Jr. murdered 6 members of the family at November 13th of 1974 and was convicted of 6 accounts of second-degree murder on the 21st of November 1975. On December 4th, 1975, DeFeo was sentenced to 6 concurrent 25-to-life sentences. The Lutz moved into 112 Ocean Avenue on the December 19th and moved out January 14th. Oh, that's fun. They had Christmas and New Year's in that movie, in that
that's
house.
Damn, that's actually
The
terrifying.
rest. Also,
Beautiful.
complete side note, both of these movies take place in December in New York, and there's no snow on the ground. I think that's bullshit.
That is bullshit.
That's what I said when they were like, the house is always cold. Well, you're in Long Island in New York in
it's
December.
fucking freezing. Sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the trivia for the most part, and then quickly the things that the 2005 version do wrong. Again, walls don't drip with blood. They portrayed that in this movie as well. The youngest son never accounted for encountering a demon in the bathroom. That was just another Hollywood jump scare.
Right.
The youngest daughter is seen in one scene navigating herself to or following Jody to the boathouse where she jumps in the water or whatever.
Yeah.
That didn't happen in real life either. George never... I wrote, George wasn't ripped like Ryan Reynolds is.
That's facts.
That's
Again,
facts.
George, this
No
movie,
cap.
the 2005 version really defaced George Lutz. Like, all of these facts are about George. George never killed their dog. That was complete bullshit, and George was furious about that because that dog is still alive to this day. In the end, on the 28th night, George did not terrorize his family and chase them around with a gun. That is not true. Again, the priest did not get attacked by the flies. And then finally, at the end of the 2005 version, the family escaped by getting on the boat and driving the boat across the lake that backed up to the house. In real life, they just got their ass in the car and drove away.
Right.
I mean, that's probably
In
the more
morning,
reasonable
too.
thing to
They
do.
left in the morning. They didn't leave in the middle of the night.
And then quickly, Conjuring 2 did a few things, and which is weird for the 5-10 minutes that they spent in the Amityville house in that movie at the very beginning. They got a few things wrong that I just thought, like, if they were going to spend only 10 minutes there, why wouldn't they get everything right?
Fact check it.
It says, Lorraine Warren states in the movie that the church reached out to her and Ed asking for help, where in real life, the news media in New York, it was the ones that reached out to the Warren family to come investigate.
Wow. No, you don't need to rush. You're good.
And then in The Conjuring 2, it shows the mother's body facing upwards.
Oh.
Whereas the police report states that all the bodies were found face down.
Face down, yeah.
And then finally again, Lorraine states that Ronnie DeFeo killed them because he was under the influence of something demonic, whereas in real life, he just said that he heard voices telling him to do it.
Yeah,
so Lorraine says that he was straight up possessed by a demon, whereas in real life, his story was... that he just heard voices telling him.
In both movies, or I don't know why I said both. I didn't even watch the other one.
I'm
but
like, hello?
In the 2005 movie, when the family was like so far away from the house, they were fine. They were normal. They weren't experiencing anything. So was he possessed, or was it something in the house that like
it's like the
just
land,
put him in it? Right. And I wanted to mention when you said something about the little girl in the boathouse. What did you think of the whole, like, it scene with the balloon, the red balloon?
Stupid, bro.
What the fuck? She was just carrying a red balloon. I'm like, wait, am I watching
You're
it?
like, hello? Are we doing a crossover right now?
It was very strange.
I'm trying to see when... Okay, so it wasn't until 1990 that the first version of It came out. So I was going to say, maybe they were paying homage to It, but it's just weird that it just pissed me off. Also,
girl
just
walking with a red balloon, and then the balloon floats up. Like, that's it. That's
literally the
it.
first scene of It.
And then just the whole fact that they relied so heavily on the little girl in the 2005 version, the youngest daughter, her being the one that was haunting the family essentially, or being best friends with the little girl. That wasn't true. It was just voices and the other demonic figures, but nobody's ever reported seeing the youngest daughter of the DeFeo family being the one that's running around haunting them.
Well, I will say, like, in some of the controversies that I was reading about the trial and everything that went on, Ronald Jr. swore up and down, not the youngest. Well, no, not the youngest. 18-year-old Dawn was actually the person that killed the entire family. And then he came home and saw it and then killed Dawn. And there was an accomplice with them.
That's insane.
Yeah, and that's what they said for years, but there's no evidence that supports this claim in any way, shape, or form. But this went on for years. There's even books about it. And then they ended up, saying like, oh, I never did this interview with this person that wrote this book, blah, blah, blah. Like, there was a lot of drama about whether or not it was Dawn that started killing everybody. But then at that point, why did Ronald finish the job?
Right.
It's not like Dawn could have shot themselves, like, laying down, face down in their bed, just like how they were found. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So last side note, I told you I'd show you a picture of the pig in the 1979 version. That's all it was.
Ew,
literally just like somebody photoshopped like a
window.
pig with red eyes.
It almost looks like a chihuahua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks completely fake. And by the way that it looks like it's being portrayed, it looks like it's like 10 feet tall, which wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, not even in that house.
So let me ask you your famous question. What do you rate it? Both movies.
Shit, that was a good one, Morgan.
That's great. So as of this week, the Binge Boys just rebranded, and we, instead of doing a 5-point rating scale, we're switching over to doing letter grades.
Okay, let's hear the letter grade.
So the letter grade, I actually wrote it down. The letter grade
he knew
for the 1979 version, I have to give it a C+, I think.
C 79. I can only imagine the 2005.
2005, I give
A D-.
like a D-, borderline F.
Really?
Got it.
There was just so much wrong with the movie, and the fact that the movie relied on like the cheap jump scares, where 79 there were no jump scares. It was just like telling the tale of this family.
Yeah.
And there were also creepy elements. It almost felt more of a drama than a horror movie. There were scary elements of the 79 version, but the 2005 version just felt like the studio was like, we can make a quick buck off of this Amityville shit. We're going to get a couple no-name actors and actresses to do it.
Yeah.
We won't have to pay them anything. We'll pocket so much money.
Right.
And it just felt like a cheap knockoff.
Got
and
it.
The 1979 version, I would recommend you both watch.
I am going to watch it.
It's good. It's a lot slower.
I'm going to have to watch it.
It definitely feels like it came out in 79.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
But
I can handle it.
But it's
I
better.
think I've seen the 79 and not the one with Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds was
You
just
probably have
bad,
because
man.
you grew up watching.
I always
old
watch
shit.
old movies. Yeah, I never really watch new movies. Yeah.
Wow.
So then I have to watch the 2005 version is basically what I'm hearing.
They're both on HBO Max for free.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Let's go.
Well, I guess that wraps us up.
Are we done?
Thank you so much for being here, Logan.
Yes, thank you so
and
much
Catherine,
for having me
thank
on.
you for hanging out. I know it's been a long ride.
Catherine's been literally
She napping in
chilling
the
out.
corner?
She's like, another mimosa, please.
Yeah,
So-
she's like, I planned my entire wedding today. Thank you.
Well, quick note. This is coming out on Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
Also coming out today on my Binge Boys podcast feed is a run-through, basically what we just did for the Amityville movies, kind of breaking it down, talking about the budget, talking about trivia, all that stuff. I had Taylor and Morgan on, and we talked about National Treasure.
Yes, I forgot it comes out on the same day.
And it comes out on the same day. It comes out today. So go over there and listen to that if you want to hear us talk about National Treasure.
Yeah, and I
do.
kind of led you guys into that when I was talking about the Oak Island mystery.
Last week. Was it last week?
Yeah.
For them, yeah.
Yeah, for us 2 days ago.
Yeah, for them, for us, we just released it. Like,
Yeah, so definitely go check out Logan, Binge Boys podcast available.
yeah, give
on
them all of your stuff.
It's on everything. YouTube is ramping up too. We just went through this huge rebrand, so don't get confused if you see conflicting logos. You know, Apple and Spotify, they take a minute to refresh new stuff. So yeah, Binge Boys Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Give them your at.
You can follow me on Logan Lewis 96 on both of those as well.
Catherine, what's your at?
Question mark.
Catherine PK _?
Underscore, yeah.
That might be it.
Yeah,
Morgan,
go check them out.
give 'em yours.
Morg.m, double the G.
Morg.m, double the G,
Double
bitch.
the G.
We haven't heard that in so long.
And
I'm Taylor J with an A, of course.
Taylor J
you guys
with
can
an
hit
A.
us up on Creeps and Crimes Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter, it's Creeps_Crimes. On TikTok, it's Creeps and Crimes. And then on YouTube, it's Creeps and Crimes Podcast. And same on Facebook. Go give us a like. Ratings. Go rate I about said all three of us. Go rate both of us. And Binge Boys on Apple and Creeps and Crimes on Apple. So go hit us up. Give us a few 5 stars. And only 5 stars. And some nice little comments for you guys. We love hearing what you guys want to hear. And we're so happy to have you here.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving,
Happy
everybody.
Turkey Day. Scarf.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.